Okay. Those on Zoom, what kind of presentation do they see? They can see it? Okay. Thanks for the invite. I'm here in the hope of adding to your hopefully ongoing debate about IP strategies and commercialization of AI-based research. And in particular, I'm going to talk about patents. But that is not to say that other assets are not equally or even more important in those settings. Brand building is often key to AI startups, and trademarks and designs are important part of that. And many business models are based on the innate rights that you get to, and the innate copyrights that you get to your code. The justifications for my focus on patents is mainly that this is the need for patents is something that you need to consider early on. I come from Patentstyret, as was said, and one of our main tasks is to proceed on applications for patents and trademarks and designs in Norway. But another important task for us is to provide information to all of those who want to commercialize something in Norway, information about what rights are valid in Norway. And the main picture is that Norway is an interesting country for building proof of concept. In that although the number of registrations are growing, there are relatively few rights in Norway as compared to a lot of other markets. And those rights could potentially limit your freedom to operate space. And that's, I think, a great advantage for doing proof of concept in Norway. And I will try to return to this proof of concept phase as I see it as important also in patent portfolio building and growing for those companies that might need that. But commercializing AI-based research could mean commercializing outside of Norway. And often the issue of an IP strategy and also including a patent strategy surfaces at that point. But we would like you to have an IP mindset from the get-go, and preferably also before that if you're leaning towards research-based commercialization. And it's not important that you know that patents are exclusive rights to mostly technical solutions in order to follow this talk. But the more you know about patents and also how they look in the AI space, the easier it will probably be for you to see how this commercialization tool can or cannot be used to strengthen or even facilitate your commercialization efforts. These are some of the things that patents are said to have going for them. They can serve as a framework for collaboration, delineating different contributions, and they are sometimes instrumental for securing finances. And I can add to the last point here about secrecy, that what I mean is that as patents become public after 18 months, you cannot have things in your patent description that you would be better off keeping as a secret beyond those 18 months. But once you have outvetted that strategically, you can also use patents to manage secrecy. In that you can talk about your solutions and the details of it at the level that is already disclosed in those published patents. And this is linked to early phase commercialization in that commercialization involves opening up and letting people in to look at least part of your solution. And my experience is that many startup companies find this to be a very difficult phase. They know that commercialization means opening up to see your baby. yet at the same time, they feel this very natural need to protect it. But at that time, very few seems to know whether something can be protected, parts, whether it would make any sense, they lack funding, etc. And in such a state, it's of course very difficult to know what to disclose and what not to disclose. So there appears to be a need for some sort of planning of this opening up phase, which you know is coming. What I think I see amongst those companies that use patent strategies and do it well is that they seem to have a very conscious management of disclosure and secrecy over time. But it's also important for us that you realize that you also see that to succeed with an IP strategy is easier said than done. And in order to substantiate this, also in an AI context, I would like to point to a couple of reports published by 2 other IP organizations. And first, we're going to look at WIPO's technology trend report on AI, a global perspective. And it's from 2019. So when looking at the numbers here, it's important that you realize that they represent a world according to ages ago. And even though the figures looks like they're going through the roof, they do not adequately reflect the recent burst of application we have seen in relation to fourth industrial or the burst of applications within medical domains, including everything personalized. But one finding I would like to highlight in this context is that for the big players, acquisitions complement both internal research and IP strategies. But in 2019, WIPO still concluded that the majority of acquired companies did not possess huge IP portfolios, suggesting that they were acquired for other assets, such as data or know-how or code. This WIPO report presents numbers of scientific publications in green and patent publications mostly in purple. And to present what is what, they try to group publications as falling into either AI techniques, AI functional applications, or AI application fields. And on the one side here, you see numbers of published patent applications within those 3 groups and their overlaps. And this figure gives some more details on publications in AI techniques. And you will not get the time to study the numbers or in detail during my talk today, but I hope that you can see the trend. And I wanted to show you some of these figures also because I think they tell us something about what patents are. Patent applications, as said, is a commercialization tool. And around 2016, it seems like AI started to become very interesting in a lot of commercial settings. At that point, some domains had generated substantial amount of labeled data. We had the compute, and you know that story. Before 2019, we saw worldwide a lot of patent applications within computer vision, but also somewhat surprising even to me within natural language processing. Here with a time perspective added, and some subcategorization of computer vision applications and natural language processing. But looking at application fields, some areas stand out. Telecom and security, transportation, the whole autonomous thing, and life and medical sciences. And my hypothesis would be that looking at the applications that are filed today, we will see much of the same picture, but also more diversity. So the message I want you to take home is there are a lot of publications, also patent publications out there. But we need to add to this an understanding of who is filing. The big tech players are filing. It seems like none of them want to be left out of whatever role AI is going to play for future generations. However, research universities are also filing, suggesting that at least some of them succeed in using patents as a tool for commercialization, also in this field. But looking at the top applicants amongst universities and research organizations, we find few European ones. And this corresponds well with what we saw amongst Norwegian universities and research organizations when we recently looked into the health space. Norwegian actors do file some patents related to pharmaceuticals, but next to nothing within the digital health space. And this overall picture is worrying to some European stakeholders. But we, of course, also realize that the solution is not only filing more patents. The larger challenge is succeeding in getting research and innovation out into markets and out into places where it can be of use. So the EPO report up next tried to look at how European universities and research organizations succeed in optimizing the value of research and innovation when this is captured in the form of patents. And the report concluded that yes, when captured in patents, quite a lot is commercialized in some form. But also that patents do not remove known challenges to commercialization, suggesting, I think, that there might be something to learn from universities and research organizations with longer experience in establishing pipelines or pathways for commercializing research. And one overall of the picture here, or one consequence of the overall picture has been a marked increase in IP outreach activities in Europe in later years. But now I want to leave this overall picture behind and show you a go-to tool for learning more about how various research-based companies use patents. This is sort of what the interface to the SPASnet database looks like. And here I've made a search for a company I admire a lot. Agendia is a company based on breast cancer research in the Netherlands. And they have, among other things, developed a prognostic tool, which can differentiate between those breast cancer patients who would benefit from chemo from those who would do equally well without. They have since then moved parts of their company to the US for market reasons, and I wanted you to see how their commercialization path is reflected through what we can see in the SPASnet. The red dots here are new patents filed, and the gray line is accumulated patent applications over time. And what you can see is one early filed patent, and that one I think related to a combination of some 70 genes used for classification. But we can also see how the portfolio grows over time and never stops. And you can also use this as SPASnet to see how the filing strategy is distributed between countries, reflecting market interest, probably. And next, I've searched for a company called OncoImmunity, which I know to be a Norwegian-based startup, originally developing a software that can predict how well one molecule binds to another molecule, something which in that space is called as binding affinity. And this is important in a lot of medical settings, because this can tell us something about what type of immune response you're going to get. And from interviews in a podcast that I like to listen to, I know that they had a software up and running, they had customers, and I could also see through this SPASnet that they had patents, filed patents to complement those assets. A couple of years ago, this company was acquired by NEC, a big AI player that you might have got a glimpse of some slides ago. And I do not know the relative importance of the patents in that context. But I do know that at that time, they had filed for patents on certain aspects of the graph-based algorithm that they use for that prediction. And what we can also see is that since the acquisition, the filing has not stopped. It's actually grown with more finances. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. I'm not sure I understood the question, but yes, patents are very often variations on some theme that you're interested in. Yes. But was that answering your question? Yeah. 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 And this is the portfolio growing DeepMind, acquired by Alphabet, as you might know. And at the time of that acquisition, I think they had some 37 patents. But within the Alphabet system, the filing certainly has not stopped. And lastly, let's look at the patent portfolio building of Elliptic Labs, a Norwegian startup again, based on research at the University of Oslo. And the original idea here was to use ultrasound and a software solution so that you can interact with gadgets without touching them. Still going strong, according to latest headlines, have managed to close a number of deals with global players. And I do not know what role their patent portfolio has played in this. But I do know that it looks something like this over time. And I'm not saying that every company that you're going to look up will have similar growth curves as this one. But I think this tells us something about what protecting or safeguarding, I'm not really fond of using those words in connection with startups, what it means. I think you will have to think about, or what this suggests to me is that this process of securing or strengthening, you must see that as a lifelong process. It's more likely to be a realization that your baby is the type of baby that needs a patent strategy, and not all babies do. And then a conscious decision to build that portfolio over time. And I think there was something that I forgot to say some slides ago that I wanted to say that I will have to come back to. Because when in that process, when you're trying to build that strongest portfolio you can, you might have to add together everything that you learned from the proof of concept phase about what type of solutions that would be strategically interesting to own in that space. With the knowledge of what the patent system is and what it does is not. In that opening up process that you're going to go through, strategically and gradually managing that process, keeping secret those parts that you're not ready to disclose yet. And another thing that I think you will have realized when looking at these curves is that patent filings, once you've got the hang of it, are no moon landings. And neither are we looking at landscape where there are one patent to rule them all. So if you're planning to have a baby, you could also use a SPASnet to check out the playgrounds in advance. You can look at classification systems, and you can study patents with interesting classifications. And you can use filter buttons to look at who is filing in your neighborhoods. But as said, succeeding with IP strategies is easier said than done, and not something that you can expect to learn overnight. And we can not help you on deciding on your strategy, but we would like to help you with basing your strategic decisions on solid information. But however much we believe in informed decisions, we also see that also this phase, or only this phase, becomes more challenging by the day. We do see an increased need to present prior art in the form of landscapes. And we think that you at some point might need to look through a lot of documents or would need help to get through a lot of documents. We would like to offer learning and training that would be fit for your purposes. And we also have some material that you can check out from the basics and beyond. And we do encourage you to check out the learning activities of other instances. And I will close by saying that there is much about IP strategies and perhaps patent strategies in particular that seems to be a bit too much for startups to approach single-handedly and alone. And for this reason, it makes very much sense to me to approach these topics within ecosystems such as Nora. So thank you for inviting us. Ja, nå gikk jeg over tiden.